for a marathon. She plans on running 12 miles this week. She runs 3 1/4 mile on Monday and 5 3/4 mile on Wednesday. How many miles does she need to run on Friday to meet her goal of 12 miles? When we take a look at this problem, it's a two-step problem. First, we know that she ran 3 1/4 mile on Monday and 5 3/5 mile on Wednesday. And then we know that she wants to run a total of 12 miles. So what would be your first step? What would you do first? The first thing we need to do is we need to figure out how far she has already ran. So what we're going to do is we're going to add together our miles on Monday and our miles on Wednesday. So we have 3 1/4 plus 5 3/5. We'll start by adding our whole numbers of 3 and 5 together. And 3 plus 5 is going to give us 8. After that, we're going to add together our fractions. But in order to add fractions, what do we have to have? A common denominator. So my denominators right now are 4 and 5. For 4, I have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. For 5, I have 5, 10, 15, and 20. Well, right here, I see 20, and I see 20. Now, how do we get from 4 to 20? We'd multiply times 5. So what else do I need to do? I need to multiply my numerator times 5. So that gives me 3 and 5 over 20 plus 5. And then I have to get the 5 to 20. So what do I multiply times 5 to get to 20? I have to multiply times 4. And if I multiply 5 times 4, what else do I multiply times 4? My 3. So I do 3 times 4, which gives me 12. And then 5 times 4, which gives me 20. I still have my 8 because 3 plus 5. And then I have 5 plus 12. And 5 plus 12 is going to give me 17 over 20. Okay, so we know that she has run 8 and 17 over 20. The next thing I need to know is how many miles does she need to run on Friday to meet her goal of 12 miles. So if we know she wants to run 12 total miles, she's already ran 8 and 17 twentieths, what do I need to do after that? I need to subtract 12 minus 8 and 17 twentieths. Now, you can choose to regroup your 12, or we can just make 12 into a fraction. I'm going to make 12 into a fraction, so we have 12 over 1. And then we need to turn this 20 right here, we need to give it a denominator of 20. So I'm going to multiply 1 times 20, and I'll multiply 12 times 20. So that's going to give me a denominator of 20, and then I have the 12 times 2, and that gives me 24. And I'm just going to tack on this 0 that comes here at the end, and that gives me 240 minus 8 and 17 over 20. Now I'll do the same thing where I turn this into an improper fraction. So I do that using the Texas method. I'll start with 20 times 8. 20 times 8 is going to give me 160 because 8 times 2 is 16, and then you tack on that 0 at the end. Then I'll add 17 to it, and that's going to give me 177 over 20. And then I have 240 over 20 minus 177 over 20. I subtract 240 minus 177. This 0 right here turns into a 10, so this 4 right here turns into a 3. 10 minus 7 gives me 3. I can't do 3 minus 7, so that 2 will turn into a 1, and that 3 will turn into a 13. We have 13 minus 7, which gives me 63. So now I have 63 over 20. Well, what operation do I do to turn that into an improper, from an improper fraction into a mixed number? I'm going to divide. So I'll do 63 divided by 20. 2 goes into 6 3 times, so 20 goes into 63 3 times. 3 times 20 gives me 60. Subtracting that gives me 3. My 3 on the top is a whole number or a numerator? A whole number, and my 3 on the bottom is the numerator. So I would have 3 from my whole number, 3 as my numerator, and 20 as my denominator. All right, this one is negative 9.65 times 13.44. The first thing I need to know is what my sign on this is going to be. I have a negative times a positive, and a negative times a positive is a negative. So I know that first of all it's going to be negative, and then I have to do 13.44 times 9.63. We'll start with my 3 right here. So I do 4 times 3, and 4 times 3 gives me 12. So I write that in 2, and I carry my 1. Then I have 4 times 3. 4 times 3 is 12, and then I add the 1 up here at the top. So I have 12 plus 1, which gives me 13. So I write down a 3, and I carry my 1. Then I have 3 times 3. 3 times 3 gives me 9, and then I have to add the 1 that's up here at the top. So I have 3 times 3, which gives me 9, plus 1, which gives me 10. So I write down a 0, and I carry my 1. Then I have 3 times 1. 3 times 1 gives me 3, and then I add the 1, and that gives me 4. I'm on my next row now. When I get to the second row, what do I have to add before I continue multiplying? A 0. I finished with this 3, I finished with that 1, and that 1. Now I'll deal with my 6. So I have 6 times 4. 6 times 4 gives me 24. So I'm going to write down a 4, and I'll carry my 2. Then I have 4 times 6, which gives me 24. And then I have 24 plus 2 at the top, which gives me 26. So I write down a 6, carry my 2. I have 6 times 3. 6 times 3 is 18. Plus 2 gives me 20. So I write down a 0 and carry my 2. Then I have 6 times 1. 6 times 1 is 6, and plus 2 is 8. Now I finished with my 6, so I finished with this, this, and this. When I get to my third row, how many zeros do I add? I add 2 zeros on my third row. So now I have 9 times 4. 9 times 4 gives me 36, so I write down a 6, and I carry my 3. I'm actually going to erase both of these. I carry my 3. I have 9 times 4 again. 9 times 4 is 36, and then I add my 3, which gives me 39. So I write down a 9, and I carry my 3. Now I have 9 times 3. 9 times 3 is 27, and then plus 3 gives me 30. So I write down a 0 and carry my 3. And then I have 9 times 1. 9 times 1 is 9, plus 3 gives me 12. Add it all together now. I have 2 plus 0 plus 0, which gives me 2. 3 plus 4, which gives me 7. 6 plus 6, which gives me 12. So I write down a 2 and carry my 1. I have 1 plus 4, which gives me 5. And then 5 plus 9, which gives me 14. So I write down a 4 and carry my 1. 1 plus 8 gives me 9. Drop my 2, drop my 1, and then how many total decimal places do I have? I have 4 total decimal places because I have 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers behind my decimal. So I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers behind my decimal. So we have negative 120, a negative 129.4272. All right, for the next one, I have negative 125 times negative 2.6. So now I have a negative times a negative, and a negative times a negative gives me a positive. I'll set up 125 times 2.6. We'll start with our 6. So I have 5 times 6. 5 times 6 gives me 30, so I write down a 0, carry my 3. Then I have 2 times 6. 2 times 6 is 12, and then I add my 3, and I have 12 plus 3, which gives me 15. So I write down a 5, and I carry my 1. Then I have 6 times 1. 6 times 1 gives me 6, and then plus my numerator of 1 gives me 7. I'm on my next row now, so what do I add? I add a 0, and then I have 2 times 5. 2 times 5 gives me 10, so I write down a 0, and I carry my 1. By the way, we finished with all of these. All right, so now I have 2 times 2. 2 times 2 gives me 4, and then I add this 1 that I carried over, and that gives me 5. And then I have 2 times 1, and 2 times 1 gives me 2. Now that I finished multiplying, what do? I add these numbers together, so I have 0 plus 0, which gives me 0. I have 5 plus 0, which gives me 5. 7 plus 5, which gives me 2, so I write down a 2 and carry my 1, and then 1 plus 2, which gives me 3. How many total decimal places do I have? I just have 1 in this case for the 0.6. So this is going to be 325, and then because I have a negative times a negative, this is a positive 325. On the next one, I have 24.5 times negative 4.9, so I have a positive times a negative. A positive times a negative gives me a negative. So I have 24.5 times 4.9. When we multiply, I start with 5 times 9. 5 times 9 gives me 45, so I write down a 5, and I carry my 4. Then I have 4 times 9. 4 times 9, it gives me 36, plus my 4 right here gives me 30. So I write down a 0, and I carry my 3. Then I have 2 times 9. 2 times 9 is 18, plus this 3 right here, so I have 18 plus 3, which gives me 21. I'm on my next row now, so I add a 0. And then I cross these out because I already used them. And now I have 5 and 4. So 4 times 5 gives me 20. So I write down a 0 and I carry my 2. Then I have 4 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16, and then I add my 2, and that gives me 18. So I write down an 8. And I carry my 1. Now I have 4 times 2, and 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 gives me 9. Add it all together. 5 plus 0 gives me 5, 0 plus 0 is 0, 1 plus 8 is 9, and then 2 plus 9 is 11. Now, how many decimal places do I have? I have 1 here and 1 here, so I have a total of 2 decimal places here. So the final answer is going to be negative 119.05, and it's negative because a negative times a positive equals a negative. Last one, we have negative 12.12 times negative 62. So I have a negative times a negative, and a negative times a negative gives me a positive. I start with my 2, so I have 2 times 2, which gives me 4. Then I have 1 times 2, and 1 times 2 gives me 2. Then I have 2 times 2, which gives me 4. And then I have 1 times 2, which gives me 2. I'm on my next row now, so what do I add? I add a 0. And then I'm done with this 2 right here. Now I have 6 times 2, and 6 times 2 gives me 12, so I write down a 2, and I carry my 1. Then I have 1 times 6. 1 times 6 gives me 6, plus my 1 right here, and that gives me 7. And then I have 2 times 6. 2 times 6 is 12, so I write down a 2, and I carry my 1. And then I have 1 times 6. 1 times 6 gives me 6, plus this 1 right here, which gives me 7. Add it all together. We have 4 plus 0, which gives me 4. 2 plus 2, which gives me 4. 4 plus 7, which gives me 11, so I write down a 1 and carry my 1. 1 plus 2, which is 3, and then plus 2, which is 5, and then I have my 7. How many decimal places do I have? I have 2 decimal places right here, so I'll have 2 decimal places right here. And we talked about how a negative times a negative gives me a positive, so this is 751.44. All right, this one says, a group of hikers start descending at 9 a.m. They are losing 95.5 feet of elevation each hour. What is their change in elevation at 6 p.m.? So the first thing we need to figure out is if they're losing elevation, is that going to be positive or negative? That's going to be negative. Okay. Now the next thing that we need to figure out is how much time has passed. Every hour, they are going down 95.5 feet. Okay. Now I'm going to write this in red because I don't want you to write this. So whatever I write in red, do not write. So at 9 a.m., let me go like this. From 9 to 10, they lost 95.5 feet. From 10 to 11, they lost 95.5 feet. From 11 to 12, they lost 95.5 feet. From 12 to 1, they lost 95.5 feet. From 1 to 2, they lost 95.5 feet. From 2 to 3, they lost 95.5 feet. And then from 3 to 4, they lost 95.5 feet. From 4 to 5, they lost 95.5 feet. And then from 5 to 6, they lost another 95.5 feet. So they just keep on losing 95.5 feet over and over and over and over and over again. And if they're losing this over and over and over again, instead of adding these odd numbers all together, what could I do? I could multiply them. So we have to figure out what number to multiply 95.5 feet by. They're losing it each hour, which means we multiply negative 9.5 feet times the number of hours that have passed. Now you could count 9 to 10, 10 to 11, and so on and so forth until you figure out how many hours have passed. Or you could do it this way. I'm going to teach it to you this way, so that way you don't have to write all that out. But that's always an option. So here is the part where we'll start writing together. So I'm going to change pen colors. So everything I write from here on out, you're going to write. So how many hours are there from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m.? From 9 to 12, that is a total of 3 hours. Then think about how many hours are from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. That is a total of 6 hours. So altogether, 9 hours have passed. So what I would do is I would take negative 95.5 and multiply it times 9. So we're multiplying 95.5 times 9. So I start with 5 times 9. 5 times 9 gives me 45, so I write down a 5 and carry my 4. Then I have 5 times 9. 5 times 9 is 45, and then I add the 4 right here, and so that gives me 49. So I write down a 9 and carry my 4. Then I have 9 times 9. 9 times 9 is 81, and then I add my 4, and that gives me 85. How many decimal places do I have? I have 1 decimal place here, so I will have 1 decimal place in my answer. Now remember, we are losing feet, so they lost a total of 859.5 feet of elevation.